Hello, coaches. Welcome to Daily Sport Podcast, Locker Room Podcast. We've got familiar faces back again tonight. Turlough O'Brien, former Carlow manager, current Euro manager, Carlow, Mark Doran, Slackneil manager, and new Wicklow coach, and Daniel St. Ledger, St. Sylvester's coach and manager. So it's very great to have you on, guys. I know we're gonna have to start with this. He's been bumming and bragging about it. We had predictions, Mark, Daniel, before a ball was kicked in the provincial semi-finals. The big man there was quick to remind me today that he's the only one out of the four of us who got all four correct, Turlough. So
did he?
He did.
I thought I was on the podcast on my own here tonight.
He did. Now, we all called. I think we all called Ulster and Leinster, and I think then Turlough was separated from the pack. He had St. Brigid's and Castlehaven. So
I think he let me down. I think.
Fair play to you, boy. That's serious predicting with 16 teams left. Boy, serious predicting. I wonder, did you have a few pound on it? Did you have a few pound on it? No.
Never.
Well, here, lads, starting with the Ulster final yesterday. We're chatting just before we came on there about how great an occasion it was. The atmosphere in the athletic grounds. I know you were there, Mark. It's a great amphitheatre for football. The conditions in the day, you were sort of thinking, is it going to ruin the game? But it actually, the standard of the game was absolutely outstanding. There was a few standard things for me. I thought Ewan Mulholland had a great game for Glen. I thought Rory Beggan towards the end of the game was gonna win it for Scottstown with that point from play and the one he set up as well for the goal chance. But I personally thought Conor Glass was sensational. I don't know, Mark, what your thoughts were on it, but I just think since he's come back from Australia, the impact he's had on Glen and the impact he's had on Derry is phenomenal. I thought even that 54th minute of the game, big turning point where he broke the kick out, took the 1-2 and stroked over a lovely score. But what was your view on the game, Mark, in general?
Look, I actually thought it was, as you said, I thought it was a brilliant game. To be fair, look, Scottstown probably done a lot of stuff right. Even at the start, I do think they caught Glen a wee bit unaware. They lined up the full four line the first. They lined up with Doran, Jack McCarron and Conor McCarron, and I think that did sort of throw Glen a wee bit. And they played by Gale Force Breeze because Glen obviously earmarked Ryan Duggan to pick Jack McCarron up, and they probably did think of Darren Hughes would play middle of the field with McCarville and maybe Kieran at wing half forward. But when they threw Kieran, you could see Glen there a wee bit for 5 minutes. What do we do? Michael Warnick didn't know. Am I marking him? Emmett Bradley, after the throw in, ended up coming back on him, but didn't actually want to be in there. And then eventually they did put Kieran McFall on. But I thought, look, to be fair, Scottstown probably should have been, well, let's say should have been, but Scottstown needed to be at least 4 or 5. It definitely was a 5 or 6 point breeze. And you did, as well as Scottstown played in as good a game as it was, you still thought Scottstown aren't enough ahead at half time. Now, in saying that, we talked about the conditions were absolutely brutal, but to be fair to both teams, it was absolutely brilliant game of football. Like, for some of the score taking, some of the skills was off the charts and that kind of wire. But look, we talked about the atmosphere. I know I'm probably a wee bit biased here, but I do believe the Ulster club is just, it's the championship that keeps on giving. It just, every game you go to, you couldn't walk out of an Ulster club championship game and go, I didn't get my money's worth there, or that wasn't good to watch. It was brilliant. But in saying that, look, for everything that Scottstown done right, Glen still won the game. They still came up with the answers. And like, one of the big points I thought yesterday was Glen didn't give Rory Beggan any free kicks. Their discipline in the tackle was really, really good. And look, Rory Beggan, nothing inside 45 yards he had a free kick. Now, I know he did kick the point to put them 10-9 in front. And the Scottstown people probably thought this is our day. But there was a serious breeze. And look, you did think Glen always were going to get their tails in front just for the breeze. Now, to be fair, you mentioned Conor Glass. The first 15 minutes, he was immense. And he did, to be fair, he got a bad nap. He went off a wee bit, then came back in again. The last 15 minutes, he was really, really good. But look, he has made a massive difference in Glen. It's no coincidence. Glen lost the final again, Maher Felt. Conor Glass in Australia. The minute Conor Glass came home, it all seems to fall into place. And look, to be fair, I remember 2 or 3 years ago watching Derry when he first came home and thinking, Jesus, he doesn't do a big lot. But it was actually when you see him up close, Clare actually played Derry twice this year. And like he's just, the stuff he does off the ball is immense that nobody sees. He doesn't, and then even I know from being involved with Slackneil this year, that night, Slackneil played them like he's immense. And like yesterday, he made that break. He went and won the receiving ball, got it over the bar. He actually won a ball. Somebody took a shot. I think it was Ewan Mahone or somebody hit a shot. He won it later after Danny Talon. But the most probably thing in Glen yesterday was it was their players that actually weren't probably had a quiet championship. Like Danny Talon probably had the best game yesterday. McFall was back to what he was like 2 or 3 years ago, like especially in the second half. Like Kieran done a serious job in Doran Hughes, but he actually drove out at every opportunity. But you mentioned about Ewan Mahone. Like Ewan Mahone, I know any in the Derry Championship this year has been exceptional. The two Ulster Club Championship games against Carrigan and against Lenties. He's been really, really good now. To be fair, Scottstown were probably stuck. Like Scottstown, Conor McCarthy, as he lined up, he did line up and fall forward. And then after 2 or 3 minutes, he reverted back to pick Ethan Doherty up and done a really, really good job. But Ewan Mahone was causing that much trouble. They had to move Conor over to Ewan. The minute Conor McCarthy over to Ewan Mahone, next thing Ethan Doherty for 20, 25 minutes was just unreal. But look, it's Glen are just.
Yeah, they're battle hardened now, Mark. They're battle hardened. Like they've been through a lot of battles. You know what? I probably go back to the game that they lost. I think it was 3 years ago to Kilmacud. I think it was 1-8 after extra time. And I think that day they learned a serious lot about themselves. You know, people only say you have to lose one to win one. Like, but they certainly came back the following year in the Ulster final, and you know they really went after Kilmacud. I think that day, Mark, against Kilmacud, they were very passive, but for me, Ledge, they've added a couple of strings to their bow. They can drop off and defend. Like when the third score, when the last point went over from Kieran McFall, the driving run on the score to put them 3 up, or 2 up, I think it was. Scottstown got the kick out away quickly, Daniel, and you can actually see what Mark talked about there. Conor Glass straight away, straight back in, protecting the D. You know, nobody had to tell him to do that. But they're good at dropping, but also they showed in the game against the Glenties that they're really good at pressing, and obviously having that flexibility in their play, Daniel, is a huge advantage, is it?
Yeah, I think so. It's probably the hardest piece to coach as well, because as I'm sure we all know, we'd have a structure that should be working on fairly religiously, defensively, offensively, on kickouts most nights, and trying to get that changed and in game to a slightly different kind of structure where players realize, okay, this is our framework, but this is the picture that's in front of us, and this is what we need to do. That's extremely hard to coach, and you probably can't coach it. It probably has to come from your leaders on the field. And it kind of goes back to kind of Conor Glass and how often is one of your better players, let's say probably one of your deepest thinkers in the game as well. So often your most influential player might just be purely football and mightn't be thinking about what they're doing, but he's very clearly thinking about what's happening, and he's pragmatic about what he does. But you could see in the first half that Glen had a kind of a middle third sort of a press, and it left a little bit of space in behind their 45. And as Mark kind of touched on, they were probably maybe overly matchup focused in the first half, because they had Darren Hughes and Emmett Bradley, and the second Darren Hughes went inside, it was, as Mark said, there was a little bit of confusion, and it probably took 15 or 20 minutes to kind of realise what was going on, because there was massive space. If you saw in the first half from the angle of where the TG4 cameras were, there was massive space in front of the D, and if Scottstown maybe got the head up a little bit quicker, there was opportunities, and you could see maybe halfway through the second half they kind of copped onto that a small bit, but they were pulling the trigger. Scottstown were pulling the trigger a little bit too often and a little bit too early. So I think that, go back to the original point, that in-game adjustment that Glen are able to make, I think, is massive, and you probably only get that from being down that road so many times. You know, that experience is really hard to. It's really hard to buy. But as you said, the ability to know, right, we have 10 players high up the field, let's push this kick out, or the ability to know we're after hitting a team on a counter attack, we've only got 3 players up, let's drop off, or even we've after conceding 3 turnovers, let's just get a period of possession and hold on to it. That requires seriously good players on the field to recognise that, because you can only have so many plans in place midweek. It has to take a bit of recognition from players in the field. So, look, I think it was a brilliant game. Just a couple of very brief observations. I thought the midfield battle was top class. I thought Emmett Bradley, Darren Hughes, Kieran Hughes. In fairness, I thought Kieran Hughes had a really, really good game with Glass. I thought that was a serious battle. I just really enjoyed it. I saw Ciara O'Kane tweeted, he said it was the best of the old and the best of the new. And I think that was a kind of a fair summary of it, you know. And again, given the conditions, like I thought it was just a titanic game, you know.
Yeah, and Turlough, you've come up against Monaghan, obviously, with your time as Carlow manager. Real battle, you know, in Cullen Park. They're a very battle-hardened group of players, Monaghan players, like, you know, and you could see that on Sunday. Mark talked about the breeze of the match. He was at the game. And even when they were, 8-6 up at half time and Glen came out and raced into a 9-8 lead, and then they still showed that resilience, Scottstown, to come back and lead 10-9. And even at 10-11, actually, Began created a great goal chance, which was blocked, which was destined for the goal. And you're thinking, if that goes in, games are decided in these moments. But Turlough, you have to give Scottstown a huge amount of credit for I think personally they've lit the Ulster Championship up this year, the Ulster Club Championship.
You're looking at a team there with, 6-7 Monaghan senior footballers on it, experienced Monaghan players. They're not just, peripheral players on the panel. They're all serious footballers, and they all brought that to the table there yesterday. And days like yesterday where conditions are a huge factor can become a little bit of a lottery. It can be the bounce of the ball. It can be the refereeing styles even can have a big impact on the game. And we talked about Began not getting opportunities, whether that's from Glen's defensiveness or Paul Falloon's reluctance maybe to blow up freeze. Maybe he lets the play flow. That may have suited Glen yesterday. And they didn't get as many scores off the ground as they might have in previous games. And I thought it's interesting. I thought that Glen then, for that period there, when they pressed Began's kick out, got great joy off it under the stand side. And that's when they got those couple of scores there to get them ahead. But Scottstown, they've been having a terrific year, terrific championship. Played superb football against Kilmacud to win it the way they won it. And yesterday, again, it was only a kick football really in it again. And marvellous advertising for the game this time of the year. You have to hand it to both sides.
Sorry, just on that, you talked about the refereeing styles. I think a huge amount of credit, Mark, has to go to Paul Falloon for what he came through, particularly after obviously the whole controversial, non-appointment of the Down final, the Down Championship final. Like he had an excellent game, and was Turlough said, we know Paul's style, like he lets the game flow, and that's what supporters and coaches and managers want to see, Mark. Like surely that's the case.
Yeah, look, to be fair, I thought he was absolutely outstanding yesterday. Everybody says it was a brilliant game, yes, but Paul Falloon had a big burn on it being a brilliant game, and I thought he refereed the game superbly. And I don't think both sets of team, players, managers, nothing could I say a word about Paul. Everybody knows the way Paul referees, and I thought yesterday he made the game. He contributed to make the game as good as it was, and it was actually good to see. But look, everybody knows Paul Falloon's a top class referee, and there's no coincidence Paul Falloon was refereeing an Ulster club final. There's no, he is a top class referee, and look, to be fair, he done a brilliant job yesterday.
Probably, Mark, sorry, Turlough, all you're looking for as management and players probably in those scenarios is consistency. Whatever the style is, that it's just the same style throughout. Whether that's some referees might be very tight on technical things, others might let little bits and pieces go. But as long as you have the same flow for the full game, you can't really ask for any more than that,
Yeah, I think there's two things about it. One, he's able to step with the play. He's very close to the ball all the time. Yeah. And the other thing is, when you don't notice the referee in the game, he's usually doing a great job. And, as you say, it's the same for both sides. They're the ways of playing the rules. Just go play the game and may the best team win. And that's what he did. Fair play to him.
Yeah, I think another advantage Paul has. I actually coached Paul about 13 years ago. He was a down.
He's got over that side.
No, I'm telling you, he was a brilliant footballer, lads. He was actually a brilliant player, Mark. You know that yourself as well. Yeah, he was a brilliant footballer, and he was actually one of the most talented underage players, Turlough, in Down. At his age group at minor level. And I think that helps, lads, when he's played the game, he understands the game, and what you said, Turlough, is right as well, Daniel. It's an interesting one from Turlough there. The conditioning levels, he's a very, very fit lad. He can keep up because the pace of the modern game is scary. The way teams transition now with such great athleticism and pace, it's so important. But Daniel, I know we go to you. I know you weren't happy with the level of officiating in the Leinster final with the Kilmacud Nace game. Obviously, Shane Walsh was the star of the show that day. I think someone in school, I heard this quote, somebody says, it's just not fair, that he can come in and score 1-8 or something. But you weren't, was it David Hickey, was that the referee in the final?
Yeah, it's kind of the point around the consistency. It was sometimes a pull of the arm was a free, and other times a pull of the arm wasn't a free. And all the time, yes, fair enough, the jersey was getting pulled, but sometimes you might have a good frontal contact that wasn't necessarily a shoulder, but just a body contact that was a free. And other times, again, on the other side of the field, there mightn't have been a free, and it was going both ways. It wasn't as if there was a specific bias, but I didn't think it added to the flow of the game at all. Like I thought the game yesterday in Ulster really flowed. Like you didn't feel like it was being stopped unnecessarily. Whereas I thought the Leinster final was a bit of a hard watch. Like it really was. And it's not as if there's a deficit of space in Croke Park or anything like that. And I don't think either, like Crokes definitely have they're probably cynical enough around the middle third at times, and Naas at times no better. But I just found even watching it, some of the frees, especially in scoring areas, were a little bit soft either side and inconsistent, which is probably the most irritating thing. And it definitely does add to the flow of a game, like, because chalk and cheese, like you probably had four teams altogether, two sets of very similarly conditioned teams, probably very similarly matched teams. And one game was far more exciting than the others, and even though the scorelines are the same, it's just a little bit of a bugbear of mine, that inconsistency. It can kind of dictate how a game looks.
Yeah, and Turlough, you've obviously come up against Kilmacud this year. It was probably an expected result from the Leinster final. Different challenge on their hands now. This is probably the real acid test for them, and it's not going to be in Croke Park. There's talk that the game might be in Park Esler here in Newry. I don't know if that'll suit Glen or will it suit Kilmacud. They've been in the road already and they've won quite a bit on the road. But who do you think? Semi-final, what's your take on it?
I'd say this. I think that Kilmacud didn't get the draw in the Leinster final. I think Naas will feel that they left that game behind them. There are plenty of opportunities in that game, and they matched them all the way, really. But they're finishing letting down, really.
Has that not been the pattern though, Turlough?
It has been.
RD at chances, Fenton's crowd, Raheny had them beaten, a normal it's been a bit of a pattern this year for them.
It is, but I suppose it's their experience then. Again, they're game managing on the pitch, then they don't panic. They keep to the way they want to play the game. It's amazing. Just talking about myself and Simon actually about our game with Kilmacud there, and Simon was making a point, like, if you were to tell your own players, in a game where you're expected to win easily, that you're going to drop off the kickouts, let the come at you, players would question. Could do that against us. They're probably expected to win that game easy. Stood off on the kickouts, gave us possession of the ball, and we're happy enough to say, look, come up the field, we'll take whatever you have, we'll turn you over, we'll go on the counter-attack and beat you. But they're very, very comfortable lads playing it any way they want. It won't face them having to travel either if it is away. I actually hope it's in Armagh. I think that's the best venue in the country for club games because it's tight. The crowd are close to the pitch, great atmosphere. A lot of these club games are being lost in the vastness of Croke Park and Gaelic grounds in Limerick and Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and really you need smaller venues for these matches where you have 6,000 in Armagh. Great atmosphere. You had 1,800 in Limerick yesterday. It's not the same atmosphere at all. That's a huge part of the game. The whole experience for the spectators and for the players as well. It really, I think, adds to the occasion, and I think I think players rise to that as well.
Yeah.
But Kilmacud, I think Kilmacud are still hot favourites for me.
And I think Turlough, the point you made there as well is a problem at county level as well. A lot of soulless games played in empty Croke Park, and when it be better, Louth against Dublin in RD, and it packed and better atmosphere close to the ground. Mark, you've obviously been on the other side of the fence. You've obviously come up against Glen this year as club manager, the same way Turlough has come up against Kilmacud. Glen, they'll give Kilmacud all their fill of it.
Look, they will give Kilmacud their fill of it, but I would still just fancy Kilmacud. And I don't mean Glen. If you look through all their forward line, just isn't. They're just not firing as well. And then I said Danny Tallon had a lot better yesterday. Jack Doherty, there's no doubt Jack was carrying an injury. Jack missed Atlantic King. Conor Comrie hasn't played his last two games. They've obviously lost Jody McDermott. So look, their forward line, they're just not still as fluent up front. And it would take. I still fancy Kilmacud just simply because of Paul Mannion, Shane Wald. Now, flip that on the other side. I actually think Glen is the best defence in Ireland. They're the meanest, the tightest defence. And if you Michael Warnock at cornerback, I think Spike is just the most underrated player in Derry. If it was Mickey Hart, you'd be doing everything to get him on the pan. But it'll be fascinating to see because Glen do have the defence, but I just would worry, have Glen enough up front? And we talked about midfield battle. There's going to be serious midfield battle with Glen. There's Dias and Rory up again, Glass and Emma Bradley. Look, there's a part of me, and there's probably people in Slotneil will hate me saying this, maybe though. I would love to see Glen actually win that Iron, because I do like seeing teams that put serious effort into it, but I just think Kilmacud have a wee bit too much now. I remember I watched Kilmacud against St Mary's RD, and I thought the first half they're brilliant. And then at half time, St Mary's RD started going at them and rolling in. And I remember getting in the car thinking, Jesus, Kilmacud's not just as good as I thought it was. It was only when I got home then I heard Kilmacud only started with 8 of the team that won that Iron final. Now, and I know what Turlough saying that day. I remember watching them again, Naas that day, and for 20 minutes in the second half, Kilmacud getting their hands on the ball. Naas just seemed to own the ball but couldn't score. Now, everybody's talking about Glen having the point to prove, but look, Kilmacud will have a point to prove, because they did get serious stick, probably with a 16th man. There's no doubt people saying, oh, it'll be easy for Glen to motivate themselves. It's going to be really easy for Kilmacud to motivate themselves to, look, we're going to put this to bed once and for all. But look, at the minute, I would just think Kilmacud will have a wee bit too much of them, and no disrespect to the other semi-final. Look, this is the final.
Yeah.
This is the final.
Kilmacud couldn't get 15 men last week. That's 16 last year against Glen.
Seen that in the league. And Daniel, just on that, like Daniel, the Mark talked about, obviously a point to prove. Last year's All-Ireland win, you can't take that away from anything, but there's still that little asterisk beside it, with the whole overshadowing the final, the whole 16-man thing. Do you feel that this year they have regressed or progressed, or where do you think they're at in, as regards?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. They haven't really, the Kilmacud All-Ireland final definitely sticks in the cross. That was one thrown away. Last year's one, there's no doubt, like, I won't say the celebrations were tainted, but it didn't feel quite right, because of kind of some of the media backlash that came afterwards. I think, to be honest with you, I think when they really want to get up for a game, I think they can. I look at Ballyboden in the county final. Like, Crokes I won't say they were wrote off in Dublin, but a lot of people fancied Ballyboden. They really did. And Crokes just blew them away. And Ballyboden are one of the biggest, most physical teams I've ever seen playing. Like, I was astounded by it. And again, I'm not sure, and I nearly cost them, but I'm not sure Leinster final against Naas, a team they've beaten last year already. I'm not sure how much they were. I don't know if they were ripping for it yet. I think they knew they went maybe, I think it was 8-5, 8-4 up at one stage, and I think they just felt like they were in control. And as the lad said, there was a 10-minute period from about maybe the 37, 38 minute until about the 50th minute roughly, where Naas had chances. And they just kept coughing the ball back up. And I think Cork then just chipped on a point or two, and then it was game over. I think they're just saving themselves, not saving themselves, but I think it'll take a big occasion to get them right up for it. Like, I mean, I agree. I think you just can't take away the fact that they have 2 of the best 10 forwards in the country in their forward line. Like, I mean, how many club teams have that? I will say Glen have the nod midfield, I would say, individually, talent-wise. But Crokes' beauty is they'll have DS and they'll probably have Brian Sheehy, who will give up their games, and they will spoil Conor Glass and they will spoil Emmett Bradley. And they don't care if they don't touch the ball, as long as those two, Bradley and Glass, don't touch the ball. And I think that it's kind of what Turlough was touching on earlier. They have no ego about them whatsoever. Like, you think 2 All-Ireland winning midfielders will want to go and spray a bit of ball and be doing their own thing. They won't give a fidders if they don't touch the ball. And I think that's where Crokes have the edge. They have all the reason and right to be an arrogant, cocky shower of footballers, but they play like anything, but they almost play like an underdog. And do you know what? There's part of me that thinks with the league final, they're getting a bit of stick about this as well. It all feeds into the siege, but it's a ridiculous scenario that there's league finals going on up here. Like, there's 3 months waiting to play a game. It's absolutely outrageous. They can pull their last 2 league games, you see, in June, if you have county players. So then you get 3 months waiting for games to be played. It's outrageous. Like, so look, I kind of don't blame them for not playing it. They'll harness that little bit of hate and build the siege, as you used to say yourself.
Well, if the American Cup, they'll not care too much about a league in Dublin. Daniel, just quickly call it then. Just one word: Kilmacud or Glen semi-final.
Kilmacud. I do think a leveler will be if it's in a provincial ground. I think that I'd love to see it. It'd be absolutely class. But I still think Crokes will probably slip away. Not much.
Doran, you're going Kilmacud?
Yeah, Kilmacud.
Yeah, Turlough.
Kilmacud.
Well, if it's in Newry, all the wee Nordies will be out-ledged by. They'll all be supporting the Ulster team by, and they'll all be cheering on the Glen. Like, so I'm gonna go Glen. Turlough, you called Castlehaven, boy. That was a big call, and I was looking at a few of their stats today. They're a battle-hardened group. I think that an average, obviously over the course of the Cork Championship, their total winning margin, I think, was 9 or 10 points over the course of their 4 games. Like, you know, and then obviously in the semi-final against Colin Collins's Clare champions, they went to extra time, and then the final they've gone to extra time, and they actually never led once yesterday in the whole game. Never led once, and obviously won the game in penalties. And I know penalties are a bit of a lottery, like, but there's obviously a bit of resilience in that group, like when they came through those battles and came through yesterday's game as well. And the game was played, Turlough, in shocking conditions, like shocking.
Yeah, look, I tell you, look, Haven are kind of a bit of a unique club, you know, one of these West Cork clubs, like they're huge pride in the club, you know, huge loyalty to the club, lads travelling from Cork City out there for training 2 or 3 times a week, like it's not an easy journey out. And down the years, you know, since Larry Templeton's been back with them, back the years, like they've a great tradition in that club. And you know, I think their manager's very smart as well. They played Finbars in the semi-final. It was a real open game, and there was a shootout. One of playing that way. County final, then Nemo played a very defensive game. They're well able to handle that as well. Never panicked, came through that. And yesterday, I thought, you know, putting Callahan on the goal was a masterstroke. It worked every way. I think psychologically he was very, very good. I think he put some of those Dingle lads off under kicks, and you know his own penalty shot, just phenomenal kicks, phenomenal. You know, so you know they're a physically strong team as well, but they are relying on the hurleys and a lot of scores of place balls, which is a worry, I think, for them. For me, St. Brigid's have been a really, really great footballing team. Look at it in the Connacht final, and I'd fancy them actually.
You were at the Connacht final, Turlough?
Yeah, I was at that. Yeah, and I was really impressed with them. Really impressed with the defending. And Mark talked about the Glen defence being the best in the country at the moment, but I was so impressed with St. Brigid's one-on-one defending. They won every battle against Corofin. I mean, they got out in front. They couldn't get out in front. They got a hand to the ball in the air. They were able to win the ball in the air. Very good on the ball. Worked the ball up very quickly. Up the field, supporting attacks, getting scores. Played a really, really good style of football, and a very, very good mobile midfield. Really, really mobile midfield. Big men. I think they'll be a handful for anybody. And you know, that young lad in the corner, Bernard Carroll, is a special talent as well. Like, you know, so
yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, I give him every chance.
And Mark, going back to Castlehaven now, before we chat about Brigid a wee bit more, Castlehaven, obviously the conditions were horrific. But Turlough talks about, you know, the 2 hurleys, like obviously pace, power, like it's something that you associate with Cork teams. Like Cork as a footballing county, like there's something missing there. There has to be something missing for the county of such size and, you know, population. From a footballing perspective, like what do you see as the issue in Cork, Mark?
I honestly don't know, because I remember watching St. Finbars playing Kilmacud and Portlaoise a couple of years ago, and just thinking there would be 10 or 11 boys be 6 foot, big athletic footballers. And I remember just coming home from Portlaoise thinking about down just our own county, and was going, if Sean, Ogan, Jack Devaney could get our finest women on a bus, maybe send them down to Cork and maybe let them do the deed for the night, maybe in 15 or 20 years' time we'll maybe have 10 6-footers, but look, that's different.
They wouldn't pay for the bus, that's the problem.
Well, look, the thing is, you're saying, because I actually don't know. I think they're the biggest underachievers of county football for this. Like, you look at Castlehaven, even St. Finbars, Nemo Rangers, like in this Castlehaven got over the line yesterday, the 2 hurleys, like and even like Mark Collins, I think, was playing left half back, the Cahalane, Rory McGuire full back, like that. They are littered with that. If you go even through Cork club football, like there's some massive clubs, big athletic footballers now. I do think John Cleary is starting to do a bit of a job with them, even though Clare beat them. I'll just get that in. Clare beat them in the Munster Championship last year, but look, they are going the right way. But look, Cork should be a Division 1 team. Cork should be Cork should be challenging Kerry every year with the pick to have, the clubs to have. And I actually don't know what's around now. Like, there's Kevin Walsh down there last year as coach, and look, maybe they'll build in again next year. But look, Cork really should be a top 4, top 5 team in Ireland, but for some reason, I don't know why they're not. That's like, and if you look at their individual players, Brian Hurley, Steve Sherlock, and then boys, Sean Powder, Lottie Taylor. Like there's some exceptional players who would walk onto any team. Maybe it's just not. It maybe doesn't mean enough to them, or they United. I don't know. Like it's very hard to put your finger on it, but they definitely have serious talent.
Yeah, and Daniel, what's your view, Ledge, on the way the game was finished yesterday? Like, obviously, the game has to finish in some capacity, but when you look at the break between now and the All Ireland semi final in early January, like surely maybe a replay would have been a fair enough. Sort of, or
I don't think so. I think look, it's in the rules, it's there, and I just like as a player, I want to get that done. That's the way I'm looking at it. I've Christmas dinner and a few.
You're thinking the night out.
yeah. One way or the other.
He's thinking of the Monday booked off work, don't he?
I saw a few Instagrams from Union Hall there this evening, and it looks fairly loose. So I'd say they're happy enough to get it played. But look, I think it's there. Get it done. The Cork issue is interesting. Like I have wonder again, like the size of Cork geographically. You've got lads that could be from the border of Waterford to going over to the border of Kerry, and is that connection there amongst the group? Like and you might have one fella from a junior club and he might be the only player for an hour and a half around. He's traveling to training on his own. It's just interesting, like even with ourselves in Carlow, like most lads that all know each other, you could have had 5 or 6 traveling from Dublin, connection there every night. I just wonder, is that disconnect there somewhere? I'm not sure. Look, maybe I'm only playing this nice stuff, but
hurling, I think hurling is a big factor in it. It is a hurling county first and foremost. That is it. And there's a thing with hurling counties, lads. There's a snobbery with hurling. I don't care what you say, and they do look down on football. And it is such a big county. You leave Castlehaven and you're only halfway to Dublin when you hit the Cork border. That's how big it is, Right. It's like a split then between the city and West Cork. They're like 2 different counties.
Yeah.
So it's hard to put it together. They've struggled over the years, and obviously come up against very strong Kerry teams down over the years too, and got some big beatings. And every time that happens, it's a nail in the coffin of Cork football. We'll follow the hurlers instead, and they need to get a run of success, I think, and they could certainly put a really, really competitive county team together. There's no doubt about that.
Well, this is the second time in 3 years, Mark, that obviously a Cork team has come out of the Munster Championship. So there is obviously something there, as you talked about St Finbarrs, but I think this is probably their best opportunity to get to an All-Ireland final. They're playing St Brigid now. St Brigid, as Turlough said, are still a very, very good side. Obviously, the Roscommon captain from last year, Brian Stack, is obviously leading them. Brian's a great defender. I know he had picked up an injury, but he made the final, and I think Turlough had a really good game in the final by all accounts. I didn't see the final, but I listened to Brian's interview after it, Mark, and it was very refreshing to hear him say, we back ourselves defending. We're confident in our 1v1 ability to take a forward on. And I just thought to myself, that's so refreshing to hear a defender speak with such confidence, because the way teams play now, Mark, the art of that 1-to-1 individual defending has probably slipped out of the game a wee bit. Would you agree?
Yeah, it probably has. Look, but in saying that, I go back to the game yesterday. Like there was, in the first 20 minutes especially, there was 1v1 battles all over the field. It was probably and it was actually shocked. I was actually surprised. But you're right, it has went out of the game, and look, it might never come back into the game again. But look, it is right, and you said, Brian, it was refreshing a defender. Look, yes, we back ourselves 1v1. And I remember, it was years ago. I remember Pete McGrath one time, just on a down squad, only arrived into a young fella, and Pete was just about, you're on a down team, but if you're a defender, you win your 1v1 battle. Your number one job is you win your 1v1 battles. And look, as you see now, probably it isn't like that. But look, yesterday there was examples it was like that. And as you said, Brian, it was refreshing for somebody to actually come out and say that, a defender. It just shows the confidence he has. But Castlehaven, we're going back to Cork, they probably have a chance of getting to the final. And I think we're just referring back to the county. I think there's no underage county has been more successful in winning an Ireland between minor and under 21s or under 20s as Cork. So whatever happens when they win them, they drop off. But look, it'll be Castlehaven will fancy their chances, and Brigid will fancy their chances. I think I would just side with some Brigids. I know Colin Collins was devastated. He felt Cracklow should have beat Castlehaven. But look, Castlehaven's got to be a bit of luck. They came through 2 extra time games and won the both of them. So it does serious for the morale, confidence, and everything.
You can't underestimate that, Daniel. Coming through real tight encounters like that, like it leaves you very battle-hardened, doesn't it? And I suppose, St Brigid's obviously will fancy themselves as being able to shut down the likes of the Hurleys, you know, will Castlehaven get enough scores? They haven't been high scoring, Daniel, the whole way through the competition. And Turlough talks about Ben O'Carroll. I personally think Ben O'Carroll is one of the best underage forwards I've seen now in the last few years. He had a brilliant season for Roscommon as well. He led up Division 1 on many an occasion. And they've got a bit of experience there too. St. Brigid's, like, they beat a good Cork Finn team. Eddie Nolan, obviously, in around the middle of the field. Big Eddie's been playing away for Roscommon too as well. You know, you've got fair bit of experience. But they also have tradition as a club too, Daniel. Like, and what way do you see that semi-final going?
Yeah, I was just thinking there, and Brian Stack was saying man-to-man defending, he'll get his opportunities for scores in semi-final. It's saying if he can manage it, fair play to him. But look, I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said for where Castlehaven came from through those battles, and especially with the break now. Like, you don't know how a team will react over. It's a really awkward period of time, I assume. Never had the luxury of trying to prepare for an All-Ireland or an Ireland semi-final in January. But it's an awkward period, and it probably depends on who kind of uses their time best. You know, definitely Brigid's probably have the path less worn, and they're little bit more energy about them. But would they want a semi-final next week? They probably would, because I'd say they're in a really good positive place. Castlehaven, if there's another match next week, I'd say the game over stuff, because they have been through the mill, you know. So like, I would still kind of side with Castlehaven, to be honest with you. I think they're a decent side. I actually thought Dingle would pip them, but in the end, they showed a real bit of resilience. And at January football, resilience counts for an awful lot. Like, you know, it'll be a cracking game, I'd say. I still agree the other game is probably the final, but I think you could be in for an absolute ding-dong of a game. But yeah, I'd say Castlehaven. They have some quality footballers, like, spined by some of the main lads for Cork, like, you know. So I'd probably give it to them just on a nod.
Turlough?
No, I'd go for Brigid. I think it's going to be an open game. If it's an open game, it'll suit Brigid, I think. I think a lot of the Haven players are, you know, they're getting on a bit too. You know, Mark Collins is probably 35 or that, is he?
Hey, that's not getting on now. Come on, Jesus Christ.
This time of the year, the Hurleys are inclined to get injured too. But, you know, the two were pulled there. I know it was cramped yesterday, but they're notorious for hamstring injuries, the pair of them. And I just think that the freshness of Brigid's will be a big factor. I think it'll be an open high, could be a high scoring game, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Doran, when did you see Doran Daniel's face there when Turlough was talking about 1v1 defending? It was when Turlough was Carlo manager.
Oh, don't talk to me.
He had to play 3 sweepers to protect Ledger.
you weren't in Port What year was it, Turlough? 2015 when he played Loud. Jesus Christ! Myself and Kieran Nolan in the full back line, and I'd say the 21 to the far 21 was free. It was always glorious space. Conor Grimes, what's your man's name? We nearly gave him an all-star, little corner forward, wasn't it? Oh my God. I went home that night. Ball of depression. I can't remember the name.
322, I think they scored that night, didn't it?
Jesus Christ. I nearly didn't come out. I swear to God. It was awful. Anyway, look, another day, another dollar.
Tony, what's your call for the semi-final then?
Look, I would say just St. Brigid's. I do think, look, to be fair, yes, Castlehaven, they have a lot of good players, but look, I just think St. Brigid's fresher, and I do think they'll really, really focus. Think there's a final here for us to go after, and I would just give me just St. Brigid's just by the bare minimum.
Yeah, lads, I'm going to finish a wee bit of a novel thing. You see the Christmas tree in the background, so I'm in a festive mood here. You know, I might even have maybe a wee bit of mulled wine or something here when this is over. But I'll finish off. I'm going to put you in the spot now. I'll give you a wee bit of thinking time, right? To finish the show off, we'll obviously not have you back on again until we're previewing the All Ireland final. Highlight of the year, Turlough, 2023. What was your highlight of the year in Gaelic football? Anything that really stood out for you?
Simple one. Eire win the championship.
Eire winning the Carlow Championship. Is that what you're going for? Is it?
Absolutely.
What about the county level? Any standout memories in the county football this year?
That's right. Look, I thought them were fantastic. I thought were fantastic when they finished the year. Was just incredible. That were brilliant. You know, for a team that's been around for so long and restructure themselves, re-energize their team with new players, and they're back again like on top. I think they've been fantastic. They'd be the highlight for me. Yeah.
Mark, highlight of the year.
Highlight of the year. I would have to say, look, and I'm being biased again just because I was involved today. Clare beat Cork in Ennis, just because I think it was 68 years since I beat them in the championship, and not that I was a Clare, but I just remember seeing the pure emotion I remember looking over at Colin Collins and he was crying. And when you're not really, people going mental around you, and I was going, I'm not not that you're still have a bit of a connection, but you just seen how much it meant to people. And I always remember that day. That's a moment I remember now, to be fair. I'm going to pick two. I thought the Derry and Kerry game in Croke Park was brilliant. I remember going to Croke Park thinking, Derry's going to park the bus here and this is going to be and it was completely the other way. So look, they were probably two. And club football yesterday, I was delighted. I was in Armagh yesterday just for the atmosphere. Yeah, so I'll give you three. I was going to say, to be fair, St. Joe's winning yesterday St. Joe's winning during the week now. We'll go to schools. That's my favourite.
Actually, don't ruin my moment.
Did they win? I haven't seen it anywhere. Did they win?
Oh, they win. But Stevie, Stevie was booked in that game. I end up
after 3.5 minutes, mate. Yeah,
3.5 minutes.
The crack was
it was a mistake in identity. Mistaken identity. Vinnie Jones still holds the record 2 minutes. But Ledge, what about yourself? What was your highlight of the year?
I tell you who I've been enjoying watching, and it's not necessarily for their control or anything like that, but it's Armagh in general. I think you get your value every time you see them. And the Monaghan and Armagh game, penalties in Croke Park, it wasn't the greatest game of all time, but I love Monaghan's revival that day. They're on their last legs, kind of. Conor McManus looked like a 52-year-old floating around by the end of the day and nailed 2 penalties in the end. I thought that was absolutely top class from the county side of it. And I kind of mentioned this in the podcast previously, just on the club end. I love that there's little rivalries starting to pop up in the club game that probably weren't there before. You can see little almost inter-county rivalries filtering down to the club game. I think that's brilliant. And the kind of the Kilmacud Glen kind of rivalry in the north, and Crokes and everyone else, I suppose. But it's that Armagh Monaghan game I thought was class.
Yeah, very good. No, for me, I would go with the Ulster final. I thought the Ulster final, the whole Rory Gallagher thing was hanging over it, and you had Derry against Armagh and the excitement, and then McFall coming back and scoring the winning penalty, and there was so many little sub stories to that game, and the colour of Clonus. Dorney, you've played there. You've been involved in Ulster finals there. Turlough, you've been there as well, Ed. You've probably been there yourself. People talk about the Munster hurling final, but when there's a full house in Clonus at an Ulster final, football final, there's something about it, lads. There is something about it, the colour and the atmosphere. And if you go to Clonus on any other day of the year, there's nobody in it, and every shop and every pub's closed. No,
Stevie, we played a minor league game there in 2007, and there must have been 4 people there, I'd say, and it was the most intimidating place. There's big slabs of concrete, and Jesus, it was depressing. It was in February, and Christ above. It's a long way from it. But
Dorney, you mentioned the schools win last week. I have to finish that now. That was the highlight of the year for me now. It was a great win for us. In Newry School, as you know, Dorney, it's not Mourne, so you're selling GAA as a product, and that's maybe not the number one sport in the area. But look, fantastic for the school. Great for the lads as well. The young boys were on cloud 9 and still are. And hopefully it'll inspire many more young boys in the school to play Gaelic games,
Stevie, from a coach's point of view, just to turn the podcast around here, and I'll go interview for a second. What was it like stepping back and letting Kevin McClory kind of take over the whole team? Was that a tough pill to swallow?
I thought it was good. It was good because it showed me, lads, that I'm a very good manager. It showed me I'm a very good manager, and Kevin's a good coach,
Fair play to him for doing all those 6 o'clock in the morning sessions.
But here, I tell you, I could tell you a few stories. I was the first man there. Let me tell you, the first man there. But, listen, there were good days. But look, population 100,000 people in Newry, and I think Mark, you were in the team that produced the last man. I think Damien Rafferty was the last player from Newry to play for Down. That was 13 years ago, and that has to change. That stat has to change.
100,000 people in Newry. 100,000 people in Newry.
Yeah, 13 years.
Wow.
100,000 people in Newry and Mourne. Yeah. That stat has to change, lads, and it will. I think it will, with a few really, really talented young footballers coming through. We Larkin Lynch, the captain there, is at Stanley's a down minor panel at the minute, and he's as good a young footballer, with drive and desire and everything. Comes from good stock as well. So please God, we'll see some of these young lads coming through. But listen, lads, thanks very much. Absolutely brilliant to have your time, your expertise, your views. Wish you all a happy Christmas. I know, Turlough, you'll be sitting with a glass of mull wine with looking at the Carlow Championship. Many's that you've won now, just to rub it in the ledger there. Many's that.
Don't embarrass.
No battle for me, unfortunately.
No. Dorney, all the best, Dorney, in the new year, your new role. I see the first league game spicy, home to Down. Will you be a half and half, Scarf?
I might need me there that day. I'm still at home.
And Ledge back with St Sylvester's, 2024.
Sure, we get going there before championship at some stage, yeah.
Good man. I hear he's been training since Halloween. My fair play to you. Yeah, listen, lads, thanks a million, and we'll chat to you all soon. Have a happy Christmas and a happy New Year.
Have a good Christmas.
All right, good luck.
Yeah,